Welcome to the Undercovers cast. I'm Ben along with Paul. Connor is having some technical difficulties, so he will be joining us momentarily. But tonight we are pleased to be joined by another guest. We have AJ from Buffalo Rumblings. AJ, thank you for coming on tonight as we get into free agency. Paul, I know you've been kind of planning the show out, so I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, cannot wait. We're gonna get into we're gonna talk some Bills free agency. They have been a bump on a log so far on the free agent standpoint, but they've been resigning some players throughout and throughout. But AJ, I'll let you go first here. Kind of get your background out. Kind of like where are you from? Like where can people find your content? Then we can definitely dive right into the show.
Yeah, I cover Bills and high school sports for Batavia Daily full time. I still do. I still am with Buffalo Rumblings as well, but that's kind of taken a little bit of a turn just because of how busy I've been with my full time gig with covering multiple sports and multiple different avenues. But live south of Buffalo, grew up here. Love football, love the Sabres. I'm going to the Sabres game tomorrow. A huge game for the Sabres on that front. So they're 5 points out of a playoff spot right now. But yeah, just follow my extra Twitter account at Ajay Cybulski, and that's kind of where you'll see all of my stuff, all my takes. And I'm strictly basically football, but I do dabble with some Sabres as well because I do care about them too. So yeah, that's it. I'm all football here, but some hockey as well.
Hudson Fashik, man, he could have last year, man. I'm still holding a grudge on that. Now we have to face the Islanders tomorrow, but that's a different story. All right, let's get into the big wide receiver train talk because that's still the talk of town, even though the Bills still haven't received much money from the other restructurings and signings yet. So, AJ, what is your biggest hole outside of wide receiver?
I would go with free safety just because obviously that's the glaring need. You brought Taylor Rapp back. DeMar Hamlin probably is the starting free safety right now on the current roster. So I would think safety, whether they go draft Cameron Kinchins. I spoke with him at the Senior Bowl. He's a guy that very good instinctually in terms of reading the field and knowing where to be when the ball's in the air. So a ball hawk, but has to work on some like aggression and tackling. So Cameron Kinchins is a guy that could be a potential add for the Bills. If you look at the free agent market for free safety or safety in general, let's look at free safety here really quick. You go down this list, you got obviously Cameron Curl's been a pretty popular name. Justin Simmons is an older option that they can go after who, again, he's had success against Patrick Mahomes in his career. I know he's older again, but if you can get him on a 1-2 year rental to come play with a contender and maybe lower that cap hit in year one and then kind of back end into year two, and if he takes a nice step with the Bills in year one, you can pay him again in year two to be your starting safety. That'd be another interesting target. But I would go free safety. That's kind of the biggest hole for me. Also, obviously, depth at both the edge and defensive tackle positions. I think there's a need there for both. You have obviously Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, and AJ Epinesa on the defensive end front. Jonathan Klein, Kingsley Jonathan, if you want to include those guys. I'm not sure if Jonathan's rostered this year, but regardless, they need more depth on the outside. Shaq Lawson's a free agent still, so maybe they bring him back on a cheap 1 year minimum deal to compete for a spot. And then defensive tackle, obviously, you only have Ed, Daquan Jones, and that's it, really. So there's some interesting depth pieces on the defensive line, and then you have the free safety position, which is really the glaring need.
Yeah, that defense, man, that defense looks. I wouldn't say it looks scarce, but it's definitely more thin than what it was last year at that defensive, especially at the safety positions, way more thin now than what it was last year. It definitely glares some concern. And let's continue talking about that defensive back in the defensive back position because it's thin right now. I mean, cornerback, you can work with, probably in the draft. It's a little bit more deep there. Safety, not so much. And with the Bills' limited cap space, are you worried about the defensive back depth for the Buffalo Bills heading into this year?
Well, right now you got Kyrie Elam slated as your cornerback 3 with Dane Jackson going to Carolina. I thought that, again, good for Dane Jackson, a guy 7th round pick. kind of underappreciated, I would say, in Buffalo because of the fact that he was always opposite Trey White for the majority of his career, or another player where he was targeted quite frequently. And again, he's not the greatest athlete per se, so he struggled against twitchier receivers. But Dane Jackson gets his bag, a deal, 2-year deal up to $14.5 million. So that's, again, puts Kyrie Elam at cornerback 3. You have Cam Lewis, who you re-signed, Taylor Rapp, who the Bills re-signed as well. So yeah, there's definitely some depth concerns in the secondary. Obviously, Rasul Douglas, Christian Benford, I think, are pretty locked in at that CB1, CB2 role. I think Benford's really shown a lot in the last couple of years with the Bills. And then obviously Douglas, a great trade deadline acquisition, just makes splash plays and does stuff like that. So depth-wise, yeah, sure. But again, you have a new defensive backs coach for the Bills this year, John Butler. They parted ways with him this offseason. So I think that bodes well for Kyrie Elam. So we'll see what happens. There's obviously, again, always depth concerns when you lose a safety duo that's been together for 7 straight seasons and has done the things that Poyer and Hyde have done. But again, that doesn't mean that they're irreplaceable and that you can't find guys, whether it be in free agency or in the draft, to fill in those roles and develop. And again, you have Bobby Babich, who's proven to develop, players, and now he's the defensive play caller. So we'll see. I think there's a lot of the right pieces in place in the coaching staff, and I think that they have enough draft equity along with just enough cap space if they decide to open up more, or if they don't, to figure it out at the safety position.
Yeah, that safety. I mean, if there's one thing I've been procrastinating or just worried about the last 24 hours, is that safety position. It's just, it looks okay for right now, but I really think the Bills could take a deep look at that safety area, replenish with what they lost, and maybe they sign Quandre Diggs or make a splash move like Justin Simmons, something like that would, if they have that, they get the cap space for it. Definitely somebody like Justin Simmons would definitely be great for the Bills to sign, definitely at that free safety position to replace Jordan Poyer. Do you, Connor or Ben, have any questions for AJ? Or any talking points? No. Yes.
I mean, I'll just say this kind of to add in on the cap situation. The Bills do have some avenues available if they need to create additional cap. I mean, Teron Johnson could get extended, and Diggs could. No, you're good. Diggs could be could be restructured, and that would create a lot of money. So if Bean is looking to actually go out there and do some semi big moves, obviously we're not doing a Von Miller type move, but if we have to go out and get someone like an Armstead, who is now a interesting name in this free agent cycle that I don't think a lot of people really would have thought about had a report from the Athletic not came out a couple hours ago linking Armstead to Buffalo. So, I mean, that is now a very hot topic in the fan base. You talked about the defensive line depth, AJ. So, I mean, that would definitely, be a huge get for that defensive line depth. And I mean, obviously safety, you still have to do something about. And unfortunately, it seemed like that safety market dried up very quickly in this free agent cycle. I mean, but there's still some options. I mean, Cameron Curl, like you guys mentioned. I mean, Simmons, if you're looking for a bigger name, obviously that would probably be a shorter contract. But I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I mean, and there are some guys in the draft as well. I mean, Georgia had their pro day today. Obviously you got, the receiver topic with Ladd McConkey showing out, but Javon Bullard, who was a name we talked about the other night, he had a very strong showing at his pro day today. So, I mean, that might be a name to look at, if you're talking about a free safety, to fill the void. So, I mean, we can make some moves, and I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like, I think the wide receiver is definitely going to be solved through the draft, because Calvin Ridley, I mean, do you guys think he's the 10th best receiver in the NFL? Because he's being paid as a top 10 receiver, $23 million a year for Calvin Ridley. Like, talk about, I don't know. That was probably the shock of free agency for me. Like, I mean, obviously you had the whole running back, market this year, which was a huge difference to years past. But Calvin Ridley, like the whole reports where it was down to two teams, Jacksonville or New England, and then out of nowhere, Tennessee comes in at $23 million a year. And at this point, I would say that the next best receiver available is going to be Marquise Brown. But with this Ridley deal, like I think Brown's probably going to command similar to what Mooney and Davis got.
Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But wouldn't half mind Marquise Brown in a Bills uniform.
Yeah, that wide receiver, the class right now definitely is going at a high price. So do you think, AJ, that the Bills decide to go away from wide receiver at the wide receiver and free agent position, decide to use that strictly draft, and focus on the defense during free agency, as the wide receiver market's still pretty high?
Yeah, I think that's realistic. Obviously, the Mac Hollins signing today, 1-year deal up to $3 million, reported by Jeremy Fowler. He's 30 years old, 6'4", 220. Had a really good year in Vegas in 2022. 57 catches, 690 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So that's kind of like that depth signing that the Bills really needed, kind of that Trent Sherfield void, but I think with a little more receiving upside, and then obviously a special teamer as well. So I think Mac Hollins does give you that. But in terms of receiver, I thought after that Mooney deal, when I saw the 13 million number, I put it out there and I said, I think it's more likely the Bills double dip at receiver now in the draft, just because I think if Mooney's commanding 13 million a year, Ben, like you mentioned, Marquise Brown's probably going to be asking for that much, if not more. And then you just look around the entire NFL. If you look at the available targets right now, Curtis Samuel, like you said, but again, he's probably, I don't know if he'll get Darnell Mooney and Gabe Davis money, but he'll still probably get upwards of 10 million if I'm to guess. So I think the route for the Bills to go would just be, take the draft. You have one of the deepest wide receiver draft classes in a long, long time. You could go on and on about this receiving class. Obviously, Neighbors and Harrison Jr. at the top, but you even get into Troy Franklin and the lads and Devontae Walker, the speedster from North Carolina, Keon Coleman, if there's one guy I'll say just for the sake of my mind, if the Bills were to draft this person, Keon Coleman, like the absolute extremism on both ends from this like absolutely, like he's a great player, but there's two sides going on that just have total opposite thoughts. So that, for my sake, I hope Keon Coleman, I would like him in a bill. I think he's a big bodied receiver. I think he runs faster than what his 40 says. And I think he's good after the catch and stuff. But again, there's a lot of guys, Leggett, Mitchell, Worthy. There's a ton of guys that the Bills can target. And then you go like Cowling later in the draft. There's a lot of just depth as well. So I think the receivers should be addressed in the draft. You got your Matt Collins, and I would focus on defense probably, like you said, Paul.
Yeah, that's probably the route I go. I mean, mentioning Keon Coleman, Ben and Connor's hype just went up just a little better. I mean, now just they're big, huge FSU guys. So they're just sitting there like, yeah, Keon. And
Absolutely.
I would say Keon Coleman.
I mean,
get me Keon Coleman. Watch Josh
the amount of
Allen
shows that we've just spent just at least 15 minutes of it just spent them two just sitting there just raving about Keon Coleman. Like the Bills have to get Keon Coleman, or like they're talking about Jared Verse. I mean, there's at least a 15-minute segment where it's just unhinged. Ben and Connor just outgoing about these FSU guys. But Bills did make a lot of cuts about a week ago. They cut Trey White, they cut Jordan Poyer, they cut Mitch Morse. A lot of these guys that were part of the old era of the Buffalo Bills. Which one were you maybe shocked by the Bills cutting, the players that the Bills cut by like a week ago?
Yeah, I would say a guy you obviously knew it happened, but you didn't mention by name, was Mitch Morse. I think now look, I think Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, like both of them together. Now, obviously Hyde hasn't been released. He's still contemplating retirement. He's actually still a free agent, so he's technically still available to sign anywhere. Who knows where that goes? His wife kind of hinted after the season was over that he was going to be done, but there's still no word on that. Nothing's been said. There's been no rumors anywhere. So we'll see what happens with Micah Hyde. But I mean, obviously Poyer means a lot and Trey White means a lot. But you look at the last couple of years, Jordan Poyer missed some time with injuries over the past couple of years. Trey White's barely seen the field in the last couple of years. Mitch Morse has been that consistent presence for that offensive line, the center for the Bills the last 5 years. And he's just been so meaningful for this team. He leads the team off the field, leads the team on the field. He's, just a really solid overall player, physical in the run game. He struggles with his anchor sometimes, but again, he's so strong that he can kind of make up for it. So we'll see what happens, but that Mitch Morse release definitely shocked me. And then again, like Tim Graham reported from The Athletic, they plan to move Connor McGovern to center and then set David Edwards for guard opportunities. So we'll see what happens there. And then obviously, Pro Bowl selection, 31. He played in 77 games with the Bills. I'm just looking through what I wrote a couple weeks ago. So, and then again, Dante Hardy, another one, Naeem Hines. So there's a lot of guys, but I go Mitch Morse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that Mitch Morse one, that really took me by surprise. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't expecting it. It was just that just a few days earlier we traded Ryan Bates, who was that guy that can play I believe tackle and center. So it's like that guy was interchangeable, and he was familiar with the center role with Josh Allen, and then we traded him away for that fifth, and then you cut Mitch Morse. I don't really like the shuffling of the line right now with this Bills team where they had a top 5, top 10 offensive line. Do you think that offensive line takes a step back next year, or do you think they could still hold that top 10 value with the guys they got?
I mean, they still have they still have the same 5 guys in terms of on the roster. Like, there's not the same 5 guys. Obviously, Morse is gone, but all 5 guys were on the roster last season. David Edwards will be interesting. Obviously, they've seen something with him. He started on a Super Bowl team as a left guard, so they obviously feel confident with him. I'm sure Aaron Cromer saw something about him, and I'm sure that's been discussed privately about his kind of approach this season and how he turns out to be. And then with McGovern taking over the center spot, it's interesting too, because he's another one, left guard, never really played center in the NFL, but there's obviously something there that Aaron Cromer and the offensive staff have seen from him last year that they believe he can just go and step right into that center role. And again, he's not the greatest run blocker, but he's very good in pass pro. And then Edwards is kind of the opposite. He's better in the run and struggles a bit more in pass pro. So it'll be interesting. Maybe they try to commit more on the run on that left side. You have Dawkins, who's really took a step forward in the run game last year, had his best season of his career. And then you have David Edwards, who's a really good run blocker too. So we'll see what happens, but I do have full confidence that this offensive line can still stay top 10. You have 4 guys still on that offensive line. It's just McGovern flipping spots. And then Edwards was used as that swing guy per se last year. So I'm confident with the Bills offensive line. Now they still have to add depth. They have Vandermark. They have Anderson, who I think they do have some confidence in, but I would like to see them fill a couple holes, especially like you said, Paul, they traded Ryan Bates to Chicago for a 5th-round pick. So there's definitely a little bit of change, but not too much compared to some of the other spots that we've been talking about.
That why offensive line, as you said, they still have those guys, and I'm confident in what we have, and with Cromer, and continuing to build this great offensive line. I guess it's the unfamiliarity with the center, who's going to be Josh Center, and just the unfamiliarity, because you've seen it a couple of times with when Ryan Bates first started at that position. You can go back to that, you can go back to a couple games where, Josh and Ryan Bates sometimes were out of sync, and, just things happen, could cause some miscommunication there. So I think that's an area to watch. Let's open this up for discussion, because I think this could be a fun thing to talk about, because with the Eric Armstead news, because there's going to be discussions. Do the Bills want to spend money on a receiver, or do they want to spend money at defensive tackle? So I'll open this up to you, to everyone, including you, AJ. Would you rather have Curtis Samuel or Eric Armstead?
One of you guys can go. You guys can.
Connor, go.
I want to hear your opinions. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, then I will make my opinion then. Between Curtis Samuel or Eric Armstead? Eric Armstead.
Yeah, between them two.
Yep, Eric Armstead. 9 times out of 10, Eric Armstead.
I'm going to go 11 out of 10 for that Connor on Armstead. Give me a 6'7" D tackle who's a monster in the run. You can set him up next to Daquan. You can set him up to Ed. You have Rousseau and Epineza on the outside who are both 6'6" edges with monster wingspans. Like on passing downs, that's going to be very hard for the quarterback just to get the ball out cleanly. Like we saw last year how many swatted passes AJ Epineza was responsible for. Like I think he was actually among the leaders among defensive linemen in the NFL for, defensive passes. Like that could be a scary defensive front with Armstead.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I wanted you guys to have differing opinions than me so I could,
I mean, I would like Curtis Samuel, but like if you're talking about a guy like Armstead, like you can find better than a Curtis Samuel in the draft, potentially all the way up through the third round. I know we don't have a third round pick, but like pick 60, you could still get a Roman Wilson. You could still get a Malachi Corley, which moves the needle at the receiving position. But I mean, as nice as Tavondre Sweat and guys like, Murphy are as prospects, they're just not Eric Armstead. Like Eric Armstead is a freak. That size and wingspan on this defensive line, like I can't pass that up.
No, it's almost impossible to pass that up. Like Eric Armstead, if you watched his games with the 49ers, oh my God, man was just a freak alongside Nick Bosa. Just imagine him with an even more stout all the way around defensive line. Oh my God.
Plus he'll, and the thing with this too is it will, because I think the Bills, they're going to have to eventually do this. And I think this is the year on the defensive line. I think they're going to have to use less of a rotation because of the fact that they're not able to sign as quality depth pieces. But even in Armstead, like you guys are saying right now, Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver, they don't have anyone to really rotate with. So Armstead would not only make the Bills better, but I think it would also help Daquan Jones and Oliver take breaks and stuff throughout games because, again, Armstead's 30 years old. He'll be 31. He doesn't want to be out there all the time. He wants to come in on obvious pass downs, rush the passer, like you said, Ben, get his hands up. So, yeah, if the money can work and you can figure out a way to get Eric Armstead, I know the 49ers athletic reporter tweeted it out that he was released and the Bills were a suitor. So if the Bills do attack that position and get a rotational piece, like you said, Ben, they can put him next to Daquan Jones. They can put him next to Ed Oliver, 30 years old, send him to a 2-year deal.
You can even put Rousseau on the inside and like imagine having Rousseau and Armstead lined up in like a NASCAR package. You then have Epineza and potentially a healthier Von Miller on the outside. Like that could be a scary pass rush package.
Yeah, it would overwhelm.
You had to say it like that, Ben.
I mean, that's what it's called, the NASCAR package. That's what the Giants had back in the day.
That's an incredible thing to say, considering what I'm wearing right now and my background.
For sure. I mean, I knew you'd appreciate, that reference, but I mean, it's what it is.
Like, Jimmy Johnson. I like Jimmy Johnson. That's all I know about NASCAR. Jimmy Johnson. Lowe's 48 car, baby.
Goat. Yep, the GOAT. That was that was always those were the best years rooting for that man.
Not the biggest NASCAR guy, but I mean, yeah, I'll tune in 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there, catch the final 10. To be honest with you, I was watching the Daytona, turned it off, saw it was going to be good to the end. So I'm like, okay, there's 5 laps left, so I can dedicate 30 minutes of time to watch the final few laps. And I seen the winner hasn't turned it on since.
Yeah,
but maybe another big race.
The Piston Cup is about as much NASCAR as I've watched.
Yeah, I don't know the last time I couldn't even tell you. I really couldn't. I don't know. But I know people love it. So
yeah, I'm one of them. I absolutely love it.
Talladega Nights is a killer movie, though.
Yes, it is.
Movie.
That is
I love it so much.
It's a classic.
I guess it's a hot take that I haven't seen it yet, but I will. I guess now.
Ooh.
Oh my! We have some breaking news.
What's that?
the Arizona Cardinals are expected to sign Bengals offensive tackle Jonah Williams.
Okay. I know they just released Humphreys earlier, so
Yeah, this just happened too. So that's a fairly interesting
interesting.
signing. That's an interesting signing for Arizona.
That's
Very interesting.
another tackle off the market.
Yep.
Williams.
So we're going to keep you, I told you 30 minutes, so we're going to keep it to 30 minutes. So let's wrap it up with, let's wrap up this free agency discussion with, as we're sitting here, Bills maybe not making that splash move. Where do you guys kind of feel the Bills are at heading into 2024? Like amongst, the Bills and, compare them to the Chiefs or with, in the division, with Miami, they're in a little bit of a retool looking for some cap space. Then there's Tennessee and Houston who are big buyers this year and they're going all in. Where do you guys kind of feel and think the Bills are at in overall in the AFC?
I mean, I would put them right there under Kansas City, up with Baltimore. Cincinnati, I think you still have question marks, especially with Burrow's health. Their defense, I think, may have more holes than ours currently. I would even put Cleveland up there right now. I mean, I've liked some of the moves they've made, some under the radar moves, but I think, that defense is only going to get better the second year with Jim Schwartz. So, I mean, I would put the Bills up in the top 5 still. There's still moves to be made, but I mean, I think Bean is making the right decisions by taking his medicine now and fixing the cap going forward. Yes. So in the future, we can actually add talent. But, in the meantime, he stockpiled the draft picks. Yes, we don't have a third rounder this year because the NFL screwed us with the comp process. But, we still have 11 selections. And in this draft, which is very deep, you can either find 11 talented players or you could even, do some maneuvering. So I think the Bills are positioned well. Yes, those players they lost had massive impacts for the organization. But I think for the trajectory of where the Bills are going, being open the window by meaning we can make moves going forward. We have draft picks to add young talent to this team. You look at what Kansas City's been doing. This is kind of a similar model because they haven't been paying older players. Yes, they paid Chris Jones, but that's an exception just because he's, one of the best defensive players in football. But that defense has so much youth, and I think that's what the Bills really need. We're going to have a young team going forward, but that's a good thing, I think.
Oh, it's a great thing. Also, we have more news.
What's up?
Joe Flacco will be on an NFL roster. He has signed a 1-year deal with the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, the Colts. Okay. I like that for Flacco.
Yeah, that's a very interesting signing. It's a 1-year deal worth up to $8.7 million, including $4.5 million guaranteed.
That's a good fit for him because if Richardson goes down, they found a capable backup. And for Flacco to be successful, he needs a good O-line. The Colts have a good O-line. They got I would say a better run game than what he had last year because he didn't get to play with Nick Chubb. So he'll get to play with Jonathan Taylor if he has to play. They got some decent receivers. Pittman is very underrated. That man has had a couple 100 catch plus seasons. Last year he was on pace to break an NFL record for most consecutive 8+ reception games before he got knocked out of that Pittsburgh game. He's a very underrated weapon. So I like that for Flacco.
And I like that for the Colts as well. Poor Browns. They just lost their best quarterback, though.
No. They got Jameis Winston.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. They did get Jameis Winston.
They upgraded.
Okay, yeah. All right. Yeah, they did upgrade. All right. We're good. We're very good then.
If Winston gets to play for Cleveland, Watson may not get his job back.
Oh, that would be nice. That would be very nice. But I want to talk about that too, where you were saying about the Bills and kind of where they're at in the AFC right now. Yeah, I would definitely put us over I would definitely say the top 5 teams at bare minimum, because you got Kansas City. I would actually put us right there. I think we're better than Baltimore, and that's even with them adding Derrick Henry. I think that going forward too, we're only getting younger. We're getting much cheaper. I definitely have a good feeling that the team's longevity is going to be a whole lot better setup than a team, even say Kansas City. I mean, Kelsey's going to retire at some point. They'll have a hole at tight end. Chris Jones did get paid, but that's not going to last for much longer. So the Bills are getting younger and they're getting cheaper, and that's a great model to have. I mean, if you look at the Green Bay Packers, for instance, the Packers, I think they were the youngest team in the NFL. Look how far they got, all the way to the divisional round. You can only get better as you get younger. So I feel like as we continue to get younger, we're only going to get better, and might even be on top of the AFC hierarchy at some point. The nice thing is, though, we're set up for success in the long term. We're not like the Saints from a few years ago who had to constantly restructure everybody and could never get Drew Brees any real talent because of that. So Bean is playing the smart game. Now it's on to see exactly what we do with it in the draft.
Yeah, Brandon Bean is just basically, I think, taking the unforeseen leap that everyone knew was going to happen, but didn't know when it was going to happen. It just felt like you guys said, go younger, get younger. There's still a lot of questions to be answered. You got a lot of holes still to fill. Wide receiver 2, free safety, obviously the big 2, but there's still a lot of depth. They still got to sign like 15 to 20 more guys to complete their roster. So there'll still be a lot of, you still got a whole draft to get through. There's still free agency. That'll last a long time. Leonard Floyd wasn't signed till late. Poona Ford was a later addition last year. So, excuse me. There's going to be a lot of answers still to be found in the next couple of months. But, yeah, I think the Bills are still up there. I mean, they have Josh Allen. I think the offense is very intriguing this year. I think Khalil Shakir took a leap. I think with Dalton Kincaid, he'll take a leap next year with Dawson Knox, hopefully able to stay healthy. I think that wrist injury really hindered him last season. And obviously James Cook. I hope they can get Ty Johnson back. I don't know how much that will cost, but I think Ty Johnson showed enough last year for the Bills to really consider him to be that backup running back, or at least running back 3, if they want to go after a running back. I know AJ Dillon. I think he was signed though. So there's, if you take a look at the running back market right now, available, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott's a guy that you could pursue. I'm trying to look at like Deontay Foreman, Damian Harris, but they tried that kind of thing. He just couldn't stay healthy. There's not really many. Kareem Hunt would be like a risk. AJ Dillon is still available. So there are some names available out there still for the Bills to kind of address the running back 2 situation. But yeah, I think the Bills are in a good spot. Obviously, like you said, the Texans really loaded up, but that's what happens when you have a rookie contract at quarterback that's balling out and you can spend. So the Bills are in a different spot. It is a new era in a way, but I think it's more of a retool than obviously a whole blow it up kind of ordeal. You still have a lot of starters on offense returning, and the defense, I think, with Bernard, Milano coming back in the middle will be huge. So there's a lot of positives for this team moving forward. And again, still a lot of questions to be answered. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of months.
Going to be an exciting couple of months.
Yes, it will. Always is. The NFL it's the best. It truly is it's the best league in America. So it's
100%. I mean, we're in like a month after the Super Bowl, and NFL free agency is taking over, the sports world. Like, go to Sports Center, all the, ESPN talk shows, like it's all free agency. Like, NFL is king for sure, AJ.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up with one final thing. One free agent, it could be hypothetical or it could be realistic. We can get crazy with this if you guys want to. One free agent signing you want the Bills to sign.
I'm going to let Ben start this one because I know he's going to take it from the hypothetical standpoint.
Okay, so this is probably going to be a major hear me out, but It might be an unpopular opinion, but why not, take a flyer on Mike Williams? Like, he's a talented player who's got a skill set that Josh Allen could really, unlock and, help Allen be another, big red zone target, a guy who could even stretch the field. And like, if you look at Justin Herbert's EPA targeting Williams versus non-targeting Williams, like, it is astonishing, like, how much better of a quarterback he was throwing to Mike Williams. So, like, why not give Josh Allen a guy like that? I mean, I know you mentioned Keon Coleman, and if you draft a Keon Coleman, like, that would only potentially help his development because he gets to learn from an established veteran who has that type of skill set. And, like, he's inevitably going to go down after, like, week 10. So you'll still have depth. I mean, Matt Collins, I know, is a similar mold, but, I mean, he's definitely not as good as a player when healthy. So, I mean, I would take a flyer on Mike Williams. I know not everyone would, but I don't think it could hurt. Like, the Bills gave Deontay Hardy $3 million last year. And if you give that to a Mike Williams, I guarantee you he definitely, beats that production we got from Hardy last season. So, even as wide receiver 5, like, I don't think it could hurt.
I had a funny comment because I do. It's hard that the Mike Williams conversation is tough because first of all, you'd be adding a guy who's approaching 30, right?
Sure.
And he's had major injury concerns, right?
Yeah.
You already have Diggs who's 30 plus in the receiver room. So you want to get younger in that sense. You kind of want to develop that room and not go that route. But also, if Williams could stay healthy, which there were so many comments on that because I said something about if this happened, it would be crazy, whatever. And the top comment was he hurt himself reaching for the pen to sign the contract. I just kind of laughed. That was kind of the narrative with him. So I get the Mike Williams talk, and I understand Ben why, because again, when he's healthy, he's talented. He's probably going to miss some games, but if the money was right, I don't see why you don't do it. I think Josh Allen would greatly benefit from him. But for me, I mean, I don't really have necessarily per se Armstead right now in my mind. I know it just happened, but I think that would be a huge add for the Bills. I think that's a pretty talented player that they could get. But I mean, obviously, I think Curtis Samuel was an interesting idea, but just because of the wide receiver market, he was probably, I'll say this, he was the guy I wanted before Monday, going into Monday. And then when I saw kind of the contracts from around the league, I figured that's probably not realistic. So and then that's when they went the Matt Collins route. Danielle with the comment, go Bills on the undercovers.
Oh, yeah, go Bills.
Go Bills. Let's go.
Yeah, go Bills.
But yeah, so that I don't really have one, but I would say before Monday, I would say Curtis Samuel just because I saw his production with Joe Brady in Carolina, and I thought Joe Brady would be able to utilize that, and he would not take away from Shakir, Diggs, or the receiver they draft. I'm 80% confident they go receiver round 1. I'm not 100%, but I'm getting to 80%, 85% confident that they either trade up to get one, not a lot, but a few picks, or they stay put or trade back. I could see really any scenario, but in that 25 to 31, 32 range, I think they get their wide receiver 2 in about a month and a half.
Well, that's it. Thank you, AJ, for coming on, talking some Bills free agency, kind of laying out the landscape for the rest of the Bills season as they head into the remainder of the offseason. Hopefully the Bills make some more big signings in the near coming future, and as they come into the NFL draft with 11 picks in the 2024 draft. And again, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Paul, Connor, Ben. I will see you guys around. Continue doing your thing. It's very fun talking football with everybody, but especially Bills fans like yourselves. So continue being great, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you.
All right, take it easy, AJ.
Yeah, thank you again, AJ.
That was Ajay Cybulski from Batavia Daily, giving his insight on the
and Buffalo Rumblings. Don't forget Buffalo
Rumblings too. Yep. So doing some great content over there. Give him a follow. One time. Hopefully, when the season gets closer around, AJ could definitely hype us up on the Bills season as it continues.
Yeah, we need some hype. We need all the hype.
We definitely do.
I mean, we got some hype earlier, guys. Like that Eric Armstead news was kind of like a little bit of a bomb. Like,
yeah,
and like I need that right now. Like
I need that
it
too.
wasn't even really on my mind, but that seed that got planted, like, oh my gosh, thinking about the defensive line rotations and everything that McDermott and Babbage could craft up with a guy like Armstead in the middle, like it just really unlocks a different element to this defense. And I know we've been talking so heavily about the back end of the defense, but if you get enough defensive pressure, it doesn't matter as much about having this all-world safety duo, because if you look at a lot of great defenses, they haven't always had spectacular safety play. For instance, San Francisco, like I know they've had Talise Fuanga, who's came up recently, but prior to that, they've had an elite defense with subpar safety play. Right?
Mhm.
I mean, even the Bucs, when they won the Super Bowl, I know they got our boy, the Josh Allen killer, back, and he was on the team then. But if you look at his snap counts, he played like less than 40% of snaps in the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game because of his cover skills weren't that great. So Tampa found a way without elite safeties.
Mhm.
There's other great defenses. Like I know that's been a backbone of the Bills defense for years, but even go back to Sean McDermott's defenses in Carolina. His safeties, I think, were all right. They weren't amazing, right? Like he had great linebackers and an amazing pass rush. And we've had a really good pass rush, but I think if we get a guy like Armstead, that's only taking it to the next level.
That would be incredible. Oh, wait a minute. We have a very interesting new piece of news to break.
Cowboys
What's
did
that?
something.
So Eric,
the Cowboys made their first move?
They
made
did.
their first move.
They did. So Eric Kendricks had originally signed with the 49ers, but he has now backed out of that and is signing with the Dallas Cowboys instead.
All right. Like that is a good move by Dallas because everyone has been completely trashing their linebackers for the last how many weeks. And like they actually made a decent signing. Like,
Yep. They got
I
Eric
mean,
Kendricks.
running back is a major question, but I think they'll probably take someone, like a Trey or, potentially a Corum early, to fill that void. Yeah, I mean, I think Dallas, like that's a great move for Dallas. And for San Fran's probably pissed because they thought they were getting Eric Kendricks and Leonard Floyd, like to add to an already great defense. I mean, Leonard Floyd is a great get, but like, I mean, they lost Tariq Armstead and maybe he's coming to Buffalo.
Yep.
I mean, just speaking of the receiver landscape, what's up, Sarah?
Hey, Sarah.
But just
All good
speaking
in
of
our
that,
neighborhood.
speaking of that receiving landscape, like it kind of went how I expected it to. Like Gabe Davis, maybe he took a little less than I thought he would get in Jacksonville. I thought he would maybe get more like 14 mil plus 13 mil. I thought was a fair price for him to be honest. I still wouldn't pay him because I don't think he's a Josh Allen receiver, if that makes sense. Like the separation isn't there for Josh, and he's really not that dominant of a 50-50 catch guy. Now, I will give Gabe some credit. He does have amazing footwork on the sidelines and like wizard toe tapping skills. And if you look at how Trevor Lawrence likes to throw his touchdowns, he throws a lot of end zone fades and a lot of passes near the sideline that Zay Jones has really been able to capitalize on the past couple of years. So I actually think Gabe could be decent with Trevor because Trevor's not afraid to throw it up and put it right on the receiver's body.
Oh yeah, the Jags are going to be a very underrated team going into.
But I still
the new season.
I'm not scared by their receiving core. Like Christian Kirk is a very good number 2. I think Zay Jones is a really good number 3, and then they don't have a Gabe Davis, another.
Nope.
I think Gabe Davis he's kind of like a 2/3. So I think with another 3 type, he could be good, but you don't have that guy where late in the game, Lawrence is just going to chuck it up. And that's why one of my hot takes is I still think the Jags could end up with T. Higgins after all of that. Like they were still after Calvin Ridley. So if they were
True.
willing to give Calvin Ridley a bag, that means they still aren't satisfied with their receiver room. Now, maybe they'll go in the draft and address that. And my fear is they'll like Keon Coleman, and somehow Keon Coleman ends up on Gabe Davis's team instead of replacing him. Can you imagine? But I mean, if the
Keon
Jets
Coleman
are
on the
willing to
Jags.
pay Ridley, they're going after a receiver. That's what it tells me. Like Gabe Davis
Yeah.
was just another piece. He wasn't the finishing piece. So it's gonna
Exactly.
be interesting. Like I like the Matt Collins signing. Like I know, you're familiar with his game, Connor, watching him a couple years, and his
Fun
year in
years.
Vegas was good. He wasn't great in Atlanta, but they had very subpar quarterback play. So, give him with Josh. He's a physical big guy who's kind of underrated for, speed for his size. So give him some 50-50 balls. He's kind of, got some nasty in that blocking department. And like that man has some insane aura for a wide receiver with that, his hair. Like he's
You
got
got that
like
right.
Van Ginkle type locks, Connor.
I'm glad somebody said it because that's exactly what I was about to say. It reminds me a whole lot of Andrew Van Ginkle. Still, just a shame he went to the Vikings. He could have been so good with the Bills.
Man,
I mean,
That
that would have
Matt
been like
Collins,
the Avengers if you brought in Van Ginkle and Arik Armstead, right?
Oh my God! Could you imagine?
if you remember back to Monday when we had Dean on, and he was talking about the difference between, who the Bills should draft, a bigger receiver or a smaller receiver, with speed and you can run the route. Bills already got that blocking receiver now, Matt Collins.
But it is on a 1-year deal. You do have to remember
right.
that. So
Right. I mean,
unless you trust Justin Shorter going forward, I mean, I think to me, that is a upgrade from Trent Sherfield / a cost-effective, like a money ball, the whole, money ball analytics, baseball approach. That is a very baseball-like money ball approach to replacing some of Gabe Davis's production. And if you look at some of his deep and intermediate routes, shadow cover one, they've, kind of, put some good content out, breaking down some of his route running ability. He has some Gabe Davis type qualities. I'm not saying he's going to go out there and give you Gabe Davis production, but he can replace some of that. So I think he'll catch more balls than Sherfield, hopefully more than one touchdown, even though that touchdown will go down in infamy in Bills history. I mean, holy cow.
He always has one, it seems. The one last year the one a few years ago against the 49ers when he was with the Dolphins.
The one against Cleveland too, that was everybody. Crazy.
And then, the toe drag that Eli Apple could have totally defended and just chose not to defend was absolutely gorgeous. But
that catch led to one of the best memes of the NFL season of McDaniel.
Yeah, for real. That just look on his face when he's just like, what do you mean? What do you mean that's a touchdown? Because he's
either that or the guy with the basketball head, at Dayton. I mean, I don't know. That story behind the Dayton guy just on this show just is now a meme throughout our little Undercovers group chat circle. It's just every time anything weird happens, I'm scrolling up through my photos and trying to find that one basketball dude. That dude would forever live in meme legend history. All right, I do have a question for you guys and for all of us to chime in.
Sure.
Who was the most surprising signing throughout the first few days of free agency?
I think it has to be Calvin Ridley. Like that kind of came out of left field. Like originally it was Josh Jacobs. I mean, Saquon, I don't think it was that surprising, especially because he went to Penn State and Philly needed to replace Swift. So I mean, Cousins, that thing had steam from the end of the regular season, to be honest with you. Like, a blind man could have predicted that. So I mean, I would say it was Ridley. Like, I mean, Derrick Henry had been rumored to the Ravens, for how many years in, link trades or whatever. So, I mean, to me, it's Ridley. But after that would probably be Josh Jacobs.
Where did Josh Jacobs wind up again?
Green Bay.
Green Bay, and then Aaron Jones was cut, and then he signed with the
Vikings.
Minnesota Vikings.
And get this, Minnesota has, I'll just go through it when healthy. They have TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison. But Sam Darnold is throwing the passes. My gosh. I think it's going to be JJ McCarthy. That's my my new draft prediction. If I'm going to get one prediction right from the draft, I think it's McCarthy going to the Vikings, because there was some steam with McCarthy to the Giants, but I just don't see Daboll wanting McCarthy. Like, I don't think he's a guy for a Daboll offense. And like, I think Shane is building the team up right. Like, that Burns move was very solid. And I actually really like the Drew Lock move. Like, to be honest with you, Drew Lock is kind of like a poor man's Josh Allen. Like, I mean, Daboll squeezed everything he could have out of Daniel Jones. And yes, they didn't have great wide receivers. They really ran heavy on Saquon and, some RPO stuff. But like, now that the offensive line is starting to get more in order, I like the Runyon move. If they were to take a Neighbors, like, could Drew Lock like win you some games? Like, he beat the Eagles last year, right? With Seattle. Like, give him some weapons and let the man cook.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a fairly interesting idea.
I would, if I'm Daboll, I would just say, this season we'll take our lump of coal with that awful Jones contract and like give it to the, the swaggiest quarterback in the NFL. And then, they still have Tommy Cutlets who can win games off the bench.
Indeed.
They should make a rap video, Drew Lock and Tommy Cutlets.
Yeah, that would be a fairly interesting thing to wind up seeing on like YouTube, or imagine if it was on Twitter or something like that.
Right.
That would get trending immediately. Speak of people who are trending, Gabe Davis is trending right now. And it's just because Jags fans have very mixed opinions about the fact that
I want to hear them, because I've seen some Jags fans excited, but the funniest thing ever was when they finally announced the Davis signing, like they could, due to like, the league year officially starting. Like, half the replies were, "That's not Ridley. Where's Ridley? Announce Ridley." Like, no one was celebrating that Davis signing. It was all like Ridley. And
poor man.
Yeah, you got to feel for Gabe. I mean, that's an interesting receiver room.
He's not the wide receiver one. You're expecting, to keep Ridley and big play Gabe to be your number 2, maybe 3.
Okay, I got some breaking news.
Oh, break it.
Oh, yeah.
Sheldon Rankins to the Bengals. That's a pretty good get for the Bengals. They needed a D-line
pretty good get. That means DJ Reader ain't coming back.
Yep. Oh, ooh. Wow.
No, nah, we're getting Armstead. We don't need them.
Yeah. If we're going to go on hypotheticals, let me bring up a hypothetical, because I saw this in the Dolphin circles a while back, and imagine if it was us instead. So everybody's like, oh yeah, Justin Jefferson is one of the best wide receivers in the league who no longer has a quarterback. And everybody wants to stir the pot on why should Justin Jefferson should just leave. He should demand a trade. Well, imagine if he did demand a trade and he landed with the Bills. Could y'all just think about that for a moment? I just want that to sink in for you guys, and then for everybody watching. Imagine if somehow, some way, Bean was able to snag a trade for Justin Jefferson. Hypothetical, yes.
Thinking, I'm like, as much as Justin Jefferson, coming to Buffalo would change everything. I mean, if you're doing a Justin Jefferson, are you packaging in a guy like Stephon Diggs? Are you just stacking picks? This year's picks and next year's picks, maybe throw in an extra guy, and then you have Diggs and Jefferson? Or are you just rolling with the younger Jefferson and then adding to your wide receiver room that way? Be interesting. That's a hypothetical that you could just take it and just take it, open up a hole, and just dive
they're
right
not
into it. And
trading
just
Jefferson though. Quessy, put those rumors to bed.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have had Jefferson. I mean, I don't mind Diggs. Like at the time, I thought the Bills
True.
far and away won the trade. Now I kind of wish we had Jefferson. I mean, I don't think the Bills would have maybe elevated so quickly with Jefferson, but I think maybe right now they would be a better team. I mean, I think it was just kind of bad luck for them. Like that Trey injury to me really ruined their best chance for a Super Bowl. And then even this year again, right? Like injuries ruined another great chance for a Super Bowl. But I trust Bean, to keep the window open. Like he's done that. We got some more moves to make. I mean, we'll see what happens. Like I'm not like disappointed at all what the Bills have done. Like I think this is status quo. Like maybe I would have expected another move or two, but I mean I think the Bills have done a good job.
Well, Ben, you know how it works. We're not making any moves until dark. Beat after dark has
Exactly.
to be
And what's gonna happen? And as soon as we end our stream, I guarantee you we're gonna make a decent sized move or a move or two. Like that's just how it's gonna be. Like I said
let's predict
earlier,
it, right?
Yeah, for
the
real.
next Bills move will be blank. Fill it in. Who is the next Bills move?
Oh, I wish it's Eric Armstead, but
I wish too. But if we're being honest, the Teron Johnson extension. Like, please do it
something
right
like
now.
that, yeah. Or I mean, if you see a Diggs restructure, something big is happening. But I mean, I don't even know. Like before we taped, I was kind of expecting some moves to happen. Maybe not a lot of moves, but I was maybe expecting maybe another move or two to happen after 4. But it's kind of been quiet. So I expected when we were taping there would be some news. I mean, and actually there's been some news that's happened when we're taping. It's just not been Bills news. So I mean, it seems like teams are starting to announce these signings now. I guarantee you we're gonna get some more major news tonight, probably tomorrow. Like,
oh, absolutely.
I mean, it seems like almost every night there's been a major bombshell to drop, late at night.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens. Like 2 nights ago, we re-signed Daquan.
Oh,
that was a Bills move that happened after 2 a.m. Right?
Yep.
I was sleeping.
I got woke up that night. Not even because of that. I checked my phone and Daquan Jones is re-signed. I'm just like, oh my god.
Yo, I checked my phone at like 5 a.m. and I was like, what? Oh my gosh, yeah, that was a great thing to wake up to. Oh my gosh, yeah.
At the dead of
Checked
night.
my phone at 8 a.m. I was behind. I was really behind that Tuesday morning, just sitting there. Or was it Tuesday morning? Was it Tuesday morning they signed him? Something like that. I just wake up. Wake up. I was expecting the Bills to do something overnight. I was expecting group chats to be blown up. I was expecting my phone to have like 50 notifications, and I think all these notifications make my phone bug. In the last couple of days, just my Twitter just been kicking me out, just like nonstop. It's like nope, you're not going to there. Nope, you're going back. You're going back.
Oh,
I mean,
so hold on, guys, hold on. So Tyreek Hill tweeted out an hour ago, just throwing this out there. Michael Thomas in Miami would be, and it's the little happy face. And
oh my gosh, please.
Hunter Renfro quote tweeted it and said, "Or me." So that's a fairly interesting person to quote tweet Tyreek Hill. Now I'm just imagining Hunter Renfro in Miami.
You saw last year in Braxton Berrios.
Yeah, they got a lot of people to re-sign too. There was talk about Connor Williams possibly actually retiring because of the torn ACL, but so far nothing noteworthy about that. And apparently, Sheldon Rankins did talk to the Dolphins, but they decided to go elsewhere with their business. So that's actually fairly interesting.
Miami can attract people. I mean, that's kind of surprising because you would think, the Miami market would be great for, for some of these guys, but I guess the Miami market's only good for 30-year-olds and golfers.
I'll say
just like actual Florida, though.
Out free agency so far. I'm kind of liking the move Cincinnati has been making between adding
Yeah.
Selkins, Stone, Zach Moss. Like those are some solid additions. They may not be major needle movers, but there's some slight upgrades. Like that AFC North, it's going to be a meat grinder again because obviously you have Henry going to Baltimore, but Baltimore's lost a lot. I don't think they'll repeat just because that defense isn't going to be the same. And then you even got Pittsburgh,
We
getting
just got
Pittsburgh
Russell
limited.
Wilson.
Yeah,
Russell Wilson and Patrick Quee.
Yo, imagine telling someone in like 2016 that Russell Wilson would be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I might have cried. I might have actually cried real tears if that was the case because Russell Wilson in 16 was still good.
Yeah, that was like MVP Russell Wilson
He
back
had a
then.
decent year last year. I mean, he's not completely washed.
I think here's the thing with Russ, in my opinion. I think now the whole Denver thing it blew up way too much for him to ever really come back. I think there'll always be the whole meme thing because of how much his former teammates dumped on him after, him getting his own private office, those Subway commercials, the Let's Ride. Like, there's just, I feel like this negative stigma with Russ right now. I mean, he wasn't even bad last year. You're right. Like, numbers wise, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Like, I mean, he was cooking in a couple of games. Yeah, they beat us. Like, he was good that game when they beat us. Like, I mean, he looked like vintage Russ at times. So, I mean, Pittsburgh obviously has a move to make at the receiver position. I know they've been talking to Tyler Boyd. CT ESPN is reporting they're closing in on a deal.
Yeah,
I mean, he was right about the Russ thing to begin with. Maybe he'll get another thing right.
Well, I mean, maybe something happens twice, but you just never know with sources like that.
Right.
All right.
But let's see. Yeah, it'll be fairly interesting, I think. But yeah, watch. We will end the live show, and within like maybe a minute, watch
Eric
the Bills sign Eric Armstead.
I know. Oh,
that means we just have to go live again.
I'll just say this about the AFC East as a whole. Miami,
okay, go for it.
Like,
is falling apart.
They are like they're gonna have to pay
as the state of Florida.
Like their center is it's. I know it's not Liam Eichenberg bad, but I mean it's not Connor Williams who's playing center for them next year. They got a 6'1" center. Like the Bills D line could dominate that. I mean, I do like a Chan, I'll say that. But I mean that O line, they lost Robert Hunt. Who's gonna replace Robert Hunt? Liam Eichenberg?
Oh no.
I mean, imagine Liam Eichenberg and is it Lester Cotton? Like, oh
yeah,
man,
Lester Cotton. Oh god, that is a cursed name down there.
Oh, just absorb and
and then your defensive backfield. Sacks. They lost. I know X was cooked, but their starting corners right now are Kader Kohu opposite an older Jalen Ramsey, and we saw Diggs absolutely torch him week 18 last year.
Oh yeah, don't forget, Ben, in that backfield they now have Jordan Poyer. Do not forget that.
Oh my gosh. I really like Javon Holland. Like, I think he's probably my favorite player on the Dolphins right now because Waddle's my other favorite player, but I guess if I had a favorite defensive player, like I just think he's such a stud. But I mean, outside of him, like they signed Shaq Barrett, which I think that was a solid move, but it's not a real needle mover.
No,
right?
It's not.
Like, who's going to replace Christian Wilkins? That's a lot of production they lost. And Van Ginkel, like, who did they sign? The guy from Seattle, right? Jones?
Yeah, I think so. I forget exactly who it was, but I think that they really didn't get much better,
They made the Barrett signing just.
Oh no, it wasn't Jones. It was Jordan Brooks. Sorry, Jordan Brooks.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah,
he's okay. He's not amazing. Like that's a downgrade from Van Ginkel. I mean, Poyer may not even be better than their starting safety from last year.
Probably won't
kind of
be.
taking the Bills' old route, the Dolphins, in a way, like,
I
signing these
mean,
veterans to
they're
1-year
signing
deals.
all of our old players. They got Saran Neal too, for goodness sake. Like, yeah, they're
Yep.
trying to be Buffalo South at this point. They're like, well,
I mean, we already own the stadium.
if we can't beat them, we'll steal all their players and try to have them
But
beat them, right?
Jordan
Like,
Poyer is going to get cooked by Josh Allen, and I mean,
oh
then
my
there's
gosh, I
Oh, yeah.
cannot wait for that.
just
Like,
imagine Stephon Diggs
I've
doing
been
a
waiting
one-handed
for that
catch over
day.
Jordan Poyer.
I've been
Mhm.
waiting for that day since like 2019 mid-season when I had my agenda against Jordan Poyer, and
Oh, geez.
I've grown to like him at times, but last season I definitely was all the way off the Poyer bandwagon. Like in 2022, he had some good glimpses, and in 2021, that was probably his best season as a
Mhm.
pro. I mean, he was first team All-Pro that season, so obviously, but I mean, I'm excited for the Bills to throw nukes on Jordan Poyer. I mean,
Oh.
Saran Neal, good luck.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be fun. Like I'm excited to play Miami now that Poyer's down there, and I think it's a little more personal for us.
Oh, Ben,
Definitely.
Ben, you know what would be great? Imagine Josh Allen takes off on a running play and absolutely hurdles Jordan Poyer.
Whoa. I
next
did
hurdle.
forget Miami made a major tight end signing in Jonnu Smith.
Yeah.
So,
major.
I mean, that offense,
Major news.
they've been missing a legit tight end under McDaniel, so I've heard. So we'll see.
They've never had one unless you listen to them enough to believe that Julian Hill could be the guy.
I mean, wait. I also forgot the Bengals got Gesicki. Like Pat could be scary with Burrow. Like he's been a Bill killer for years.
Oh, you got that right.
Don't stress me out.
Freaking Mike Gesicki. Luckily it's only a 1-year deal, and they're more than likely losing T. Higgins as well. So I think that just kind of cancels, one another out. But
God, imagine T. Higgins.
I mean,
with the Bills though,
McDaniel did have a decent tight end in Gesicki. He just hated Gesicki because Gesicki wasn't a great blocker.
Exactly, didn't fit the scheme.
Or that horrible gritty that he did just got him out of town.
Oh God, yeah, that too.
Fortunately, I think Jamar is going to teach them gritty lessons, from what I've heard.
That's the next breaking news we get on the show.
Yeah.
Mike Gesicki learns how to properly gritty. Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Let's get back on track. Maybe one final question for you guys.
Yeah, let's wrap this up because we really have. I mean, we went through a lot, broke everything down, but we're waiting to get off here so we can get a signing, right? Because we know what's happening.
Yeah,
we know it will.
Biggest threat.
It's after dark.
Who is the biggest threat to the Buffalo Bills now during free agency? Like, there's still the draft.
Division
just take
or
free
conference?
AFC.
Yeah, because like the East, I mentioned Miami, and then you look at New England. What the heck are they doing? Like, I know they re-signed Amenahue, which was a solid signing, and Brissett will be a good bridge quarterback, but like they have no weapons. They whiffed on Ridley. If they get a rookie quarterback, he's gonna, be Mac Jones all over again between throwing to Kendrick Bourne, Tyquan Thornton, and whoever else they have. I know they finally got rid of Devontae Parker.
At last.
But I'm not concerned with the Jets either because their quarterback could be running for VP next season, right? Like, what is going on with the New York Jets right now? Like, they're signing. I mean, I'll give him a little credit. Morgan Moses was a professional football move, but other than that, they're signing like backups like Tyrod Taylor. Oh, I feel so bad for Tyrod. He's got to end his career there. Like, he would have been the perfect backup quarterback to Josh Allen. But
Jameis Winston exists.
But I mean, Jameis is going to start in Cleveland, though. You forget that.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. No,
I would have loved Jameis, but he's going to start in Cleveland. But I mean, we were only giving $2 million for a backup, and Tyrod. I mean, I think he got like 2 for $12 million or something. So God bless Tyrod, robbing the Jets to hold. I mean, he's going to probably have to end up playing at some point because we know Aaron Rodgers is either gonna get hurt or he's gonna, end up in office or something weird. So, like, how crazy would that be if the whole Aaron Rodgers experience was him running out of the tunnel with the American flag, and then 4 plays later it was over?
And then,
I don't want to think about that.
No, I do, because that would be so freaking hilarious, and the Jets are gonna jet. I love it.
The Jets keep jetting. That's just a natural thing for the Jets. But you know what? If we're going to discuss which team,
let me get back. Sorry, real quick. I would say Houston is making some really good moves right now. I already mentioned Cincinnati. I like the moves they're making, but Houston is like, we got a young quarterback on a rookie deal. Let's get a veteran running back who's solid, and let's go ahead and add a ton of talent to a promising young defense with a defensive guru leading them. Like Daniil Hunter opposite Will Anderson with Foley Fatukasi in the middle. Like, oh my gosh, that's going to be a scary proposition for quarterbacks in the AFC.
Oh, yes. But in terms of maybe who is threatening us when it comes to maybe a position that we also need in terms of just throwing it out there would be the Kansas City Chiefs. They need a wide receiver. We need a wide receiver.
Yeah.
What's to say that the Chiefs aren't trying to – you already saw that they restructured Mahomes' contract again.
I just know what's happening. I dread it, but I think it's reality. I think Marquise Brown is going to be a Chief. I hate to say it. As much as I want him on the bill.
As long as it's Marquise Brown and not,
not Hollywood Brown?
No. Let it be Marquise Brown instead of someone like Justin Jefferson. Imagine.
They're not getting Jefferson.
They're not. No one's getting Jefferson except
Jefferson is just pipe dream. I mean, maybe they could get Ayuk, but if Ayuk is available, you better do your thing and get a proven receiver who is a route technician. Like, he would eat with Josh Allen throwing him footballs.
Oh, yeah.
And he ate with Brock Purdy and, on one of the run heaviest offenses in the league. Like, San Francisco, they didn't attempt that many passes yet. I mean, he had 1,400 receiving yards?
I think so, yeah.
Last year, Ayuk?
God. Yeah,
Brandon Ayuk is 26 years old. He's definitely would be your WR1 for the future. If he's there and if Bean can do his magic, I would do it. I mean, I've been on Brandon Ayuk since the news started. I mean, it's definitely cooled for me as of late, but like if Brandon Ayuk says he's available, I'll be the next Brandon Ayuk Stan account to get him to Buffalo.
What are you going to do, Paul? Are you going to change your Twitter handle to @CookedByAyuk?
Maybe. I don't know.
You should. If that happens, I'm going to put it out here on the show right now. If that happens, you have to change your Twitter handle to @CookedByAyuk. You have to do it.
Okay.
Ben, make sure he does it.
I will. I'll write it down and just make sure,
Right,
maybe a reminder will pop up on my phone.
Write it down.
That's Free Agent Frenzy. That's the show. Thanks to AJ again for coming on, giving us great insight on the Bills. No real breaking news, no like shocking trades or really big signings like Justin Simmons like going to the Bills or Justin Simmons going somewhere. Not yet. Maybe it'll happen on Monday when we go live again. More free agent news. Definitely get back into the draft sphere. Get ready for
more draft stuff. I'm excited.
Definitely.
To get back into it. And we'll definitely at least have more stuff to talk about, either if it's good or bad. Like, more moves are gonna happen. It's only the first day of free agency, but a little bit has happened. We do have some exciting things that could happen, between Armstead, maybe receiver if it happens. But I mean, I think the wide receiver train in the draft at this point is full steam ahead with Davis leaving, Ridley off the market. So let's see what happens and let him cook.
Oh, exactly.
Bean Cook. That's how we're going to end. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. TikTok, if that's still going to be a thing within the next few weeks. If not, follow our Instagram as well. Also on Twitter. We also do YouTube Shorts. So if you can't find us in TikTok in the next few days, just hit us up on YouTube Shorts and Instagram. Until Monday, go Bills.
Go Bills. Let Bean
Go
cook.
Bills. Let Bean cook.